Hello, all. Welcome to Satsang. That was kind of a weak hello, all. Usually it's a big booming voice, but got a little weak there. Anyway, hi, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful Sunday afternoon or evening or morning or nighttime for Satsang. For Satsang with you, right? Satsang is a completely subjective experience. Actually, everything in life is, but we don't really get that. It's one of the key points that non-duality references and brings attention to, that what we experience is our perception, not reality. We're searching for reality in the perceptions rather than searching for reality in the perceiver, or more accurately, the perceiving itself. And so when we're searching for reality, meaning, purpose, all the aspects of life, in what is perceived, ignorant of the fact that the perceiving is literally creating it, we can invent all sorts of things. That's what samsara is. That's what Maya is. It is just one fabrication after another, and one thing gets believed, and then another thing gets believed, and then another thing gets believed, and that belief sinks in deeply enough to an individual or to a group as a whole, an entire culture. And what is a culture but basically a group ego, a group set of beliefs? Then we experience everything through that lens and regard it as true, not realizing that the lens is distorted. I mean, people really did believe that the earth was flat, that the and stationary, and that the sun made a trip around it every day. People really believed that. Now, when we discovered it wasn't true, did anything about our perception change? No, it looks exactly the same. The only difference was we now perceived it accurately. We perceived it actually as it is. This is the nature of everything. When we think we are perceiving something objectively, we're not. There is no objective perception. I mean, this is the whole point of science, is to try to get to that which is purely objective. And the scientific method, how can I put this? Dutifully and do a great deal with a certain degree of success, has eliminated the subjectivity from it, which has saved us from superstition. And although there are still people who believe the young Earth theory and the creationist model, they believe that the Earth is flat. But you can't help what people are going to believe. But for the most part, everything we perceive, no, not for the most part, everything you perceive is your mind. The world, as you know it, is a concept. Nobody can hold in their mind every single detail of the world. So when you say the world or the universe, what are you talking about? You're talking about your concept of it, your beliefs about it, your ideas, your experiences. You have a very, very private view of what the world is. And that's why sages have forever said you're in a dream. You're not seeing the world, you're seeing your concept of the world. Now, this is bad enough. This causes enough mischief all by itself. But the same is true of yourself. That word I is a concept, which refers to just an image you hold in your mind of who you are. And so this infinite and vast and significant beingness that you are gets reduced to this concept. And they say, I am that. This is the whole point of satsang, is to call that into question. Is that true? Is my concept of the world the world? Is my concept of the universe the universe? Well, then what makes me think the concept of I is actually me? just ponder that. I'm not going to have a long discourse because I have another interview after, I have like 10 minutes after I end Satsang, which has to end exactly at 2 p.m. my time. I have 10 minutes to like rearrange things and sit back down for a live interview. So I'm going to dive right into the questions because I notice they're already here. So thank you all for being here once again. Obviously, if you weren't here, there'd be not much reason for me to be sitting here talking into a camera. So you've made my day. Thank you. Hi, Rosario in Spain. Good to see you. Robbie in Romania. There's Bob in Serbia. Hello, Bob. Ursula in Madeira Island. Here's Jay already right out the gate with a question. Hello, G and everyone. In a conversation between Rupert and Swami Sarvapriyananda, Rupert asks, am I aware? And the space one checks into the answer is yes. That space is awareness. But Swami says that's one step removed from unmediated awareness. And that's only a reflection of awareness, like how the moon is reflected off the sun's light. I'm a little confused with what he said. Well, I don't know him. Obviously, I'm familiar with Rupert, but I'm not familiar with that Swami and why he would say that. First off, that exercise that Rupert does, are you aware? Am I aware? And then noticing where it is you look is extremely powerful and extremely valid. Even if it is one step removed, it's a whole lot closer for most folks than they've ever gotten before. And so it's very, very powerful to just, am I aware? And then figure, and then how do you actually know? And you've heard me ask that question. How do you know you are? You know that you are. You know that you exist. How do you know? And Nisargadatta even says, I am that by which I know I am. Now, that's enough all by itself. Even if that isn't the absolute final step, it's the biggest step most people could possibly make at this point, right? Now, what the Swami may be talking about is what Nisargadatta talks about when he makes a distinction between the consciousness and the absolute. The absolute, which does not even know that it is. It can't, because the absolute has no concept whatsoever. Not even the thought, I am. It is the absolute emptiness. Prior to any thought whatsoever. That's an impossible place to describe, obviously, because all description must arise out of it. It is beyond all conceiving. You cannot conceptualize it. You can't even point to it. Point to where? Right? But I think that the exercise Rupert does of turning your attention towards that space, where are you looking when you answer that question? That's the right direction. That's the direction to go. It is pulling completely away from all perceived experience in an attempt to see the actual perceiver themselves. Now, of course, you can't see the perceiver because it's not an object. It's not a form. It's not a person. The perceiving itself, any person or object or form is by definition perceived, right? And it's dualistic because if any form is going to be seen, it has to be against a background of something else. So there has to be two there. So the ultimate perceiving cannot be perceived, which is, one of the power questions of Mooji's. Can the perceiver be perceived? And it's extremely powerful to just ponder that. So the ultimate perceiver cannot be perceived. It is simply myself. I know that I am, right? Now, take away even the thought or the sense I am, which is the subtlest of all perceptions. In the beginning, right, which is not in time, is in the eternal now, there is simply the pure being without a single ripple of a self, completely selfless, empty void. There's simply being itself. And the firstborn of that is the sense I am, the self-awareness of awareness, which is, of course, nothing but awareness, appears in awareness, is made of awareness, right? But you see, you can't put that into words. So I'm obviously, I don't know the Swami. I don't know exactly, where he's coming from on that. That's the best I can assume. Maybe he's trying to draw the distinction. Maybe it had to. Maybe it isn't even necessary. This comes up occasionally, and I will address it. But as you notice, I don't normally do, because why talk about the absolute? I'm just trying to get people out of their heads, right? First, right? And the way I'll do that is to get into your body. But the body's just a perception, right? And then you've heard me say, well, there isn't actually a body. It is just a bunch of sensations. And that's the five skandhas of Buddha. You start with form and you see the emptiness of form. Seeing the emptiness of form, you'll see the emptiness of the sensations, that by which we know form. Seeing the emptiness of sensations, you'll see pure perception. Seeing pure perception, you'll see the pure objects of mind, that the form and objects of mind are one, and how the four skandhas have compressed. And then finally seeing that the object, that mind itself is a concept. It sinks into the consciousness. And then beyond that consciousness is simply the emptiness, shunyata, Buddha nature. So I'm assuming it's not a contradiction, right? But that Rupert is using a very powerful exercise to bring folks to a place where the final I am can finally dissolve, right? It's not like it dissolves and it's just blank. What it means is that sense I am is no longer seen as any kind of external experience. Even the sense I am, everything merges into the infinite, undifferentiated absolute. It's about the best I can answer that. So let me know how I did on that, Jay. I will just really quick here dive. Jay, correction, moon reflects the light of the sun. So I will check in, Jay. Okay, I'll check later to see if I nailed it for you or not, which is a technical, very spiritual term. Nailing it, right? That's part of the Vedantic language. Just kidding to any of you, right, if you don't know. Hello, Diane. Hi from the UK, GP, and my fellow travelers. New and wonderful inner landscape. I love that term, inner landscape. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight. So glad you're here. Martin, hey, G, what exactly is consciousness? And what was there before the Big Bang happened? Thanks. Oh, little questions. The questions science can't answer. Yeah, oh yeah, let's just bring him to this guy on YouTube. My nutriments for the day. I haven't had much to eat. It's been a busy morning. Okay. What is consciousness? I'm speaking here, right? I'm blabbing away. And there's a microphone over my head that's picking up the sound. You can't see it. But tilt it down here. You might get a look at it. There it is, right? But it's up here, out of sight where you can't see it. So the picture is nice and clear. But it's picking up my voice, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be hearing me. Now, is the microphone hearing my voice? Is it cognizing my voice? No. How about the wire that's leading around to the mixer I have over here, which is connected to the computer? Is any of that hearing my voice? No consciousness there, right? Right. What about the internet, the wires, all the connections, all the ISPs and all over the place that are finally delivering this picture and the sound to you sitting there at the computer and at your computer? Is any of that, including your computer and the speakers that are vibrating for your ears to hear the sound, are they hearing my voice? Okay, the eardrum in your ear that's vibrating in sympathy, which is then translating that signal, which went from electronics back to analog, back to an electrical signal that's now running through the brain, doing all sorts of different things, different aspects of the brain. Is any of that hearing my voice? Okay. And it finally gets to this place where there's a cognizance of the voice speaking what I'm saying, etc. Right. That's you. Right? You are hearing my voice. That's consciousness. There's no consciousness in the mic or the wires or any of that. Consciousness is what's hearing my voice. That's it. It's your own self-awareness. Normally when people ask that question, and the big mistake I believe science has made is it has asked that question in an attempt to find some object that is consciousness. And their best guess at this point, and it is a guess because they're not really sure, and not all of them agree, is that it is some kind of tiny little structure in the brain that somehow gives rise to the sense of self. Right? Doesn't answer the question as to what's cognizing, right? Where's the actual point of cognition? If you look for it in the brain, you won't find it any more than you'll look for you look for me in the picture that's on your screen, or the song in the radio that's playing it. Right? That point of cognition, which cannot be described because it's not an object. You can't point to it, you can't weigh it, it has no physical characteristics whatsoever, but you are it. You're fully aware of it because it is your very awareness. It is your capacity to cognize anything, to recognize anything, including yourself. That's consciousness. It's really that simple and very much personal in the sense that it comes right back to you. It's you. You and you alone are consciousness. Not something that has consciousness, which would make it some kind of structure or process or something. But consciousness is you. It is that which is hearing my words right now. That's the simplest pointer I can make to it. Okay? What is it made of? Nothing. It is itself alone. It is primary. It is essential. It is the ground of being. It is the self itself. So it isn't made of something else. Now, the materialist will disagree with me on that, and that's fine. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. I just don't see any other way it could be. But you can explore that for yourself. Now, what was there before the Big Bang happened? Well, if you look at it from the point of view of time and the material model, it's an unknowable because time did not exist. You can't think of it in terms of space because there's nothing to define space. You can't think of it in terms of time because in that moment it was a singularity. Nothing was happening. So time would be immeasurable. So asking the question, what was before that, is really kind of overlaying our sense of time, which has come many billions of years later, onto that which was actually a timeless state. I don't know. Was it another universe that collapsed in it? We can speculate within our context of time, and people are doing that. From the point of view of consciousness, consciousness has always been. It had no beginning. It doesn't exist in time at all, and therefore the Big Bang is but an image in consciousness. A metaphor. I actually don't see the Big Bang as any different than any other creation story like, God making it in 7 days, or it's springing full out of the head of Wonka Tonka, or one of the other creation stories that are out there. It's interesting that in the Hindu tradition, where they have all sorts of gods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva being the most primary, that all of the gods are actually the children of the womb of the goddess, from the womb of the goddess. The womb symbolizing this timeless emptiness out of which everything has come. It really is pointing to this primal emptiness that is the nature of timeless, self-aware being. That's the so I see the Big Bang as yet another metaphor in the human mind. I mean, the reality is we don't. Time is a man-made construct. We a relative distance between events that we've extrapolated back to this place that we assume, barring nothing weird happening in between, that it just all basically collapsed on it by just running all the models backwards. Although one of the things that's very confusing is that in order for that to work, that the Big Bang, in the beginning for a while, everything was traveling faster than the speed of light, which is supposed to be a speed limit. So there's a lot of stuff there that goes, well, what's actually happening? For me, what's most important is you can dismantle the idea of time and space, but you can't dismantle. The one thing you cannot dismiss is that I don't care what the theory is, what the idea is, be it a mythology, a religion, or some very complex scientific model. None of them can exist without consciousness. The Big Bang is a concept, right? To try to specify something, to try to grasp reality. It's a concept produced by, living in, and witnessed by consciousness. When I look at all of it, the thread I see throughout the entire thing is consciousness. Nobody looks at consciousness, only what consciousness is aware of, assuming, as they do, that consciousness is some kind of byproduct of this, that the Big Bang exploded and many, many, many billion years later, suddenly consciousness appeared. That's a theory that is being pondered in consciousness. You can't get away from it. So the spiritual approach is, what are you? Are you simply some kind of weird remnant of the Big Bang? That you appeared 13.8 billion years later, and in however long you're going to disappear completely into the void. Consciousness had this little moment in the sun, and then oblivion. That's the model that's predicted, right? Looking at your own subjective experience, does that feel true? And I don't mean to try to, like a belief system or a religious thing, or I want it to be true, but to actually look. The only place, since consciousness is not an object that can be studied, the only way to know it is to know yourself, because it's totally subjective. And in that regard, you have as much authority as the most educated person on the planet for discerning what is true about consciousness, because you're it. And nobody else's theory can possibly equal your own direct experience. So that's the kind of way I want to look at things like that. To understand yourself as consciousness will allow you to explain all the other phenomena. Right? But the other phenomena will not explain you as consciousness. Know who you are, the one who is perceiving. The consciousness that is perceiving and is even pondering the idea of a Big Bang or any other creation theory. And you find you're sitting at the center of it. I hope that helps, my friend. Hello, Ava. Good to see you. A fiber in the fabric of life. Hi, GP. I finally see that consciousness is not an object. Truly amazing how the mind searches for something which it can't understand. Beautiful, beautiful. It's the nature of mind. If we understand that, then we go, oh, okay, that's what it does. Right? The problem is we mistook all of its ideas and conclusions as the truth. That the concept of I was actually I. And then we find, as we're actually exploring our true experience of consciousness, that it's not an object. You find the mind going, because at that point, the mind is useless. It can only deal in objects, symbolic, whether it be a gross object, like, something you hold, or a subtle object, like a thought. Right? These are all just objects of mind, being experienced by and in consciousness. And that consciousness that is perceiving them is not an object, and therefore unknowable. This is what Vedanta means, Advaita Vedanta, the end of knowledge. It doesn't mean you become stupid. It means that you've gone beyond all the pairs of opposites, all subject-object relationship. The true knowledge of who you are, the jnana knowledge, is unknowable to the mind. The mind can't see you. It has no idea about you. It has ideas about you, but not you. It can't know you. It is simply a tool to manipulate symbols, and therefore cannot actually experience reality directly. You can, because you are the reality that is to be experienced. And in fact, you're experiencing it all the time. It's called your being, right? But we just believe the mind and therefore get kind of lost in it. But I'm so happy for you to see that. It's a big breakthrough to realize that no thought is ever going to cut it. And now you're in the realm. Now you've joined me in the realm of pointers and metaphors and stories and jokes and stuff, but because you can't put it into words. Because words are all the mind. Thank you, Fiber in the Fabric of Life and Life Itself. Justine, hi there. Seeing Photoshop models everywhere makes it kind of hard to like oneself. I make the mistake to compare myself to those ideals. I know. Somehow men I know are looking for women that look like them. Also, I don't wear tons of makeup and false lashes and so on, like more of the natural beauty type. Thank you for doing that, for not doing all of that kind of stuff. It's just a terrible degrade. It's not only an insult to the female, to the goddess that is the female. It is such a trivializing for men to be reduced to just look to the most superficial stuff. But that's the culture we live in. Everything gets reduced to it. That's the nature of a culture that's based completely on consumerism and profit. It commodifies everything, and then it wants to shrink everything into a unifying form. So everything is like this. Everything so it'll be on the assembly line. They did it to music. They did it to art. They did it to movies. Everything is compressed now. There's very little art left. It's all commerce, and so the woman gets turned into this. Oh, it's just an object. This is the ideal that's held up to, and it's also photoshopped, right? Totally photoshopped. So the fact of the matter is, no women actually look like that. They don't, right? Everybody's got differences or flaws or flaws. Well, they're not even flaws. They're just everybody's different. But the more they can convince you that somehow you are less than, you will be buying their products. That's what it's about. If women liked themselves, the entire cosmetics, beauty, and cosmetic surgery industries would collapse, completely fall apart. They are sustained by making you feel bad about yourself. And these days, you're seeing more and more men like that, right? Everybody with their six-pack abs and that sort of thing. It's not as bad, right? But it's it's driving in that direction because they want to sell more, basically, shit to men. Right? We're already selling plenty of shit to women. Now, look, let's see if we can drag them in on it too. So the only way it can actually hook you, right? The thing to look at is that in you which is reacting to it, right? Now, it's trying to get you to react, but the only way it can is if there's some remnant of an idea within you that somehow I'm not enough. And for most of us, in fact, all of us in childhood got that message and believed on a very energetic level, I'm not enough. Women got that, little girls got that message in one way, little boys in another. And women, it was little girls, it was about their looks, or maybe daddy didn't respect her, wasn't interested, preferred boy, a brother or something like that. It can even be sexual abuse and that sort of thing. All sorts of things can go into us that children internalize as I'm not enough. That sense of I am not enough is the hook that makes these things feel powerful. Without that, you have no Velcro. There's no place for it to stick, right? It just goes right through you. So the key, the inner work part of non-duality is getting to the root of that feeling that I'm not enough, which is the result of childhood trauma. The trauma simply being, right, I got disconnected from my true nature. I got disconnected from my soul, right, because I entered into a conflict early on where I could not be myself because it was not acceptable to the tribe, and nobody is. Some more so than others, but nobody is really acceptable totally to the tribe. You can't be and still be an individual. So there's this need for us to bond with our tribe, to conform to the tribe. And any characteristics of us that are not acceptable to the tribe have to be driven underground or into the basement. And the end result then being, I lose my authenticity. I lose who I really am. I am disconnected from my soul. And when that happens, we conclude that it's my fault. I'm not enough. Obviously, if I was, I wouldn't have to do that. But I did. And therein lies that initial trauma. It's totally automatic. Nobody, at the age, you're not making the choice. It is simply the adaptive nature of the nervous system. It adapts to that environment, and it makes a very hard choice. Right? It's decide: am I going to live or am I going to die? That's how it sees it. And so what it does is it adapts to that environment and creates the behaviors, suppresses other things, that is successful in the moment, in that it does make you survive. Obviously you did. You're here now asking the question. But that very same adaptive behavior becomes destructive later. You're now inadequate. You don't like yourself. You feel less than. It's the source of addictive patterns, whether that be a social relationship, substance, no matter what it is. That's where it springs from. It's also documented. I mean, it's documented that it increases the childhood trauma, increases risks of cancer and melanoma. The list is endless, right? Where these correlations have been proven. They're completely ignored by the medical community because of the ideology and because they're completely dominated by the pharmaceutical companies. But this is not, I'm not making it up. This is not, woo-woo stuff. You're not reading about this in Crystal's magazine. Right? You can read it about it in the Harvard Review and various kinds of journals of medicine. So the fundamental issue, which non-duality addresses like nothing else does, is reconnection with your soul. To do that means going through what isn't true about you to get to what is. And I can guarantee you that underneath all the conditioning, all the adaptation that took place, the original pristine, innocent you is still there. The absolute, pure, perfect you is still there. It relishes in its own beauty and self-love. So thank you for sharing that with me, Justine. There's another question in my Facebook group. that my private Facebook group about women in the appearance. I'm going to have to answer that one as well. Which, by the way, if you want to join if you're not in my private Facebook group, you very well should be. Just go to Facebook/GP Walsh Spiritual Teacher. One long word. And we'll let you in. It's, you got to pay a lot to get in, though. Right? It's actually free. Thank you, Justine. Thank you very much. I hope my answer was a comfort. Right? It's a pointer. All of these things point us back to where was the real source. How in the world does look at every kid? They're just so natural and free and innocent. And they like themselves and they don't have any issues with themselves. And they walk around naked and they don't care if right? They simply have no self-consciousness whatsoever. What happens? Right? Well, we know what happens and we know how to reverse it. And so thank you. Robbie, can you give when wanting to pursue an action with considerable pain, discomfort involved in it, when you want to pursue an action, should one work on manage or lessen the perceived pain or go forward trusting with what shows up? Wanting to pursue an action with considerable pain and discomfort involved in it. Well, I think the first thing is don't try to force stuff. Sometimes timing is there, something has to be done, you just got to do it. So you bite the bullet and you do it, right? But if you're talking about something you're trying to achieve or accomplish in your life, or some new direction you want to head off in, that to just try to suppress the pain and discomfort and press on is really quite violent towards yourself. It's a total disservice to yourself. Because what it does, it says, this part is good, this part is bad, and I got to get rid of this part, right? What I recommend instead is a reconciliation between those parts. What you have is, remember that, as I was saying to Justine, your nervous system adapted early on to allow certain things, behave in a certain way, and disallow others and not behave in that way. So if your desire, the real you, desiring its authentic place and its authentic expression, contradicts that, you're going to feel the pain and the discomfort. You cannot get rid of that mechanism, right? It's what kept you alive. You need to appreciate it. But it can learn to keep you safe and protected differently than it has been. It can be brought out of its adaptive posture that worked when you were young, but isn't working now, and allow it to adapt to the new environment. But in order to do that, you have to stop fighting it. You have to become the peacemaker. You can't be engaged in a conflict between these two things, and you create the conflict by taking sides. Don't take a side, there's no conflict. And this will start to happen very naturally. The thing that you're looking for, and the energy that doesn't think it's a good idea. Why? Because if you do it, you're going to get smacked, which is what really happened in the past. That's the trauma, right? If given enough time and energy and love, we eventually see, okay, this isn't dangerous. I can do that. Matter of fact, there's some benefit in there. Okay, we're going to go ahead. And now all of a sudden there'll be an energy of just really natural, fluid, forward motion that it doesn't have the kind of, 1 foot on the gas, 1 foot on the brake that inner conflict does. So whenever you run into that, don't try to push forward or go forward trusting. Make sure that there's a sense of inner equanimity, a sense of self-acceptance and love. And I think you'll find that the way will just kind of start opening up. You just know what to do, right? Things will pop up, steps will be taken. You'll take some steps and go, no, this isn't the right thing. There'll be a wisdom there that will help start directing your path accordingly. I hope I answered that correctly, because I wasn't 100% sure about what the question was, but I hope I answered it. Hello, Jonas. Good old cravings, addictions coming up lately. Since I, for the first time in years, tasted some candy and had a chocolate bite with milk in it. I'm a vegan. After having shared a joint with some friends. Well, yeah, well, that's what happens. The body still needs healing. And it's been pretty clear for a long time. Thus, I became more conscious of what I eat and how often and so on many years ago. Um, since the body has been shut down so much and had some intuitive hunches confirmed through what I consider real health practitioners, it feels like the body is still, yeah, this gets too lengthy. God, I can't keep this short and say what I actually wanted to say or ask or whatever. And as always, even with the chronic inflammation and major gut and circulation issues, I still taste the fruit, the beauty, and more insights. And being that, more than just intellectualized stuff, it seems the ego function pattern is clinging on with whatever point. Sorry, so long and didn't make sense of it. Can't phrase this shortly in the moment. Now I'll sit down on the boat and enjoy the moment myself. Thank you for another beautiful. That's very, very funny. Yeah, I did kind of ramble. When old cravings or anything come up, don't make a big deal out of it. Even if all of a sudden you find yourself, eating the candy bar, right? It's just a moment of unconsciousness. It's not a big deal, right? And remember, these habits are, they're in the nervous system. You may live your whole life and it never is completely expunged. It doesn't matter. Consciousness becoming aware of it can mitigate it, can subjugate it. It doesn't get in the way of your spiritual evolution. And obviously, an addictive behavior is something that there's a sense of relief in the moment, right? So there's a relief to the pain, a short-term relief to the pain or the craving that has long-term negative consequences. That's what an addiction is, and an inability to stop that behavior, even though there are negative long-term consequences. That's Gabor Mate's definition of it, which is the best I've ever heard. Right? It really is that simple. So what if a craving comes up, the conscious way to approach it is, what am I really craving? When these cravings got put into place, it was all because you were craving your authentic self, and because of various traumas, you couldn't get to it. And so it got replaced by these behaviors that brought a sense of relief, but not actually nourishment and the real acknowledgement and satisfaction that you're really seeking. And they all have the root in the same place, not knowing who you are, a disconnection from who you are. So every craving is a craving to know yourself as you are. And the process is be with the craving, right? If you find yourself eating the candy bar or puffing on the cigarette, notice it and then just stop and move on. Let it go, right? Continue this inner work of digging deep within yourself, right? Do not let there be any recrimination, any judgment, or any criticism, because that's all part of the mechanism that keeps it in place. You are dealing with a machine, a highly complex machine that has been deeply and very intricately programmed, right? And you may not be able to completely eliminate it all. Thank God you don't have to. You don't need to eliminate it all in order to be fully awake. Nisargadatta smoked cigarettes to the day he died. So did Steve Jordan, right? I've heard of masters who drank them, who drank a lot, right? What are you going to do? Right? It is not the determining factor. Earnestness is, and a humble heart is. Sometimes these things have to come up just to keep us humble, to keep us vigilant, to keep us recognizing that this is grace. By grace ye are saved, and that not of ourselves, lest any man should boast. This is the nature of grace, and sometimes you need that thorn in your side, that kick in the butt, the cosmic 2x4. Say, thank you, I'm listening. Okay? It's okay. It's okay, buddy. Now sit on the boat and enjoy this. Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne. Hello, everyone. I have a little child, about 2 years old. I don't want to traumatize it unnecessarily, but it's not easy to know exactly when to let it cry because it only wants to test the limits and when not to. For example, it doesn't like sitting on the table in its chair while we're all eating, so it screams and cries. I'm not sure if I should give the child... Where did you continue? I don't see it. Oh boy, I don't see where it continued. Okay, well, I'll just take it from it from here. Parenting is so difficult. Conscious parenting is even more difficult because you're aware of the impact that your actions are going to have on it. And you know, it isn't so much what you do as the energy behind it. Right? To be firm, say you can't do that, or to let it cry. But while that energy of just absolute love and appreciation is there, that will get communicated. The child will feel the love, right? And so you don't be inhibited by needing to discipline it, or it's going to sit there at the table screaming. You can let it scream, right? Or maybe you'll feel impelled to just kind of pick it up and put it in the crib and say you have to stay in here. This is not acceptable. You can't have that. That's okay. It is not the action itself that creates the trauma, right? It is the energy behind it, right? As long as there's this energy of trying your very, very best to communicate that it's like, it's not you personally. There's nothing wrong with you, but we can't have that. Right? It's every child will receive from even the most perfect environment will get the message that parts of me are not acceptable. Right? The mission is for that to be as clearly about that it's not parts of you are unacceptable, but certain things you do are unacceptable. You have to act this way, but it's not who you are. You don't have to be. We want your authentic self. If the vast majority of the time you're welcoming their authentic self, and the times when you have to cut off the child stuff, and we do, we do, self-protective, don't run with scissors. No, you can't have the knife. No, you can't play light the fire in your bedroom, right? You have to. That's not an imposition on who they are. It is you continue to honor and see and notice who they are, appreciate it, recognize that this is the appearing of divinity right in front of you. That while the form is the child, the essence of it is God, is the absolute, is the infinite being itself. And the form is going to have to learn to conform to an environment. If it doesn't conform to the environment, it's even worse. It's worse off for it. Right? So this is where you just kind of take it to yourself and just recognize what you're doing, do everything you can to communicate and still be firm and draw the line and recognize. My son said this to me. He says, Dad, I recognize now that parenting is all about letting go. I said, yes. And guess what? It doesn't change. It still is. So let go. Let go of your need to be perfect. Let go of thinking you have to control. You have to do everything right. And let go of the idea that it's your fault that the child is going to get conditioned and come up with this stuff happening. Remember, the trauma isn't the thing that's done. It's when the trauma leads to a disconnection from the soul. When an event or an environment leads for a denial of oneself, a bearing of one's authenticity, that is the trauma, right? All you can do is make the environment as as loving and as patient and as present as you can, honoring them, and then let it go. That's all you can do. It's all anybody can do. Because every individual has their own destiny that has to be fulfilled. And you are simply a bit player in their story. Right? You're just there, hanging out. They're visiting you temporarily, and then they're off. You have no idea where they came from. Really, no idea where they're even going. So, 2 years old is wonderful. It's a wonderful time. It's when all this stuff starts happening. It's when all the no's come. Putting down the feet, the temper tantrum. What is it? It's the nervous system struggling to hold on to authenticity and function in the world, and just be the most loving you can. It's the most difficult time for anybody to go through, right? We don't remember it, right? But it's really difficult, as is puberty, which is the next major transition. And then it's death after that. So there's a big, long period of time where it's not so dramatic. Thank you, Suzanne. You're doing a great job, truly. Hey, Sue in South Africa. Hello, Sue. There's a Facebook user. Hello, 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 hello to you. Jonas, hello, G. Could one say that the body is in the consciousness and not vice versa? I say it. It's true. What isn't in consciousness? If it's not in consciousness, you're not experiencing it, right? It's just the idea that consciousness is a byproduct of the body, which is the way the world sees it, right? The body, the world, everything is external. In essence, there's no difference between the most narrow-minded creationist view of the world, and God creating it literally in 7 days, even though there was no day, there was no sun and moon, and the scientists with the Big Bang, right? Everybody agrees that the universe created. It was there before I came here. It's going to be here after I go. It has nothing to do with consciousness. Consciousness emerged in it. Whether you think the origin was God or the spaghetti monster or the cosmic egg or the Big Bang, that's the idea. The consciousness only model says no. Consciousness is primary. What could I possibly experience without consciousness? At least from my own personal point of view, my own individual subjective experience, I cannot experience anything other than consciousness. That's just the self-evident fact. Without consciousness, I do not exist. Consciousness and existence are one, right? So what is the body then? It's an experience being had by consciousness. And very early on, very young age, consciousness identified with the body. I am the body. And in that moment, there became a boundary to me. Consciousness created a boundary, an imaginary boundary, because it isn't real. Prior to that, it was just undifferentiated. There was no me, you, other, this, that, them, body, not body. It was just this undifferentiated field of consciousness. That was the primal experience. And then in the midst of that arose that sense I am the body, which immediately created the sense of separation. This is what is meant in the Garden of Eden of eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tasting of the pairs of opposites, the duality. I am the body. You could even see Eden as representing the body, Adam and Eve as being children, right, in undifferentiated consciousness, and then eating that fruit, which in that time they suddenly became aware. What was the first reaction? Fear and shame. They hid themselves from God. Me bad, God good, right? And were ashamed. They were ashamed of. Suddenly there was this consciousness of the body, right? And they had to then be thrown out of the garden because they couldn't, they could not eat of the other tree in the garden, which is the tree of eternal life. That's what the metaphor specifies. So it is eating that fruit, I am the body, which creates the illusion of a world. Prior to that, it's not that the world's different. Right? What we call the world, our experience is identical, right? But there's no world. It's all consciousness. It is all happening within consciousness. It's all being witnessed by consciousness, and it's all made of consciousness, the primary substance of all things. So does that answer it for you, Jonas? Nice and succinct, to the point. Hey, David and Elaine, they said the same thing. They heard that conversation, Jay, with Rupert and Swami. Very interesting. Hopefully I covered, my explanation was clear for you, Jay. There's Virginia. Hello, Virginia. Hello to you. Let's see, Jay. What's up with some Indians labeling Western teachers as liars? There was some hatred towards Rupert in the comments, saying things as, he's loony. He just says whatever comes to his mind, and that. Well, that's what I do. I just say what goes to my mind. And in fact, everybody does, pretty much, right? What can you say? You know, there are some people in the West who won't accept the teacher, right, unless he's wearing orange robes and has an Indian accent, right? As if, and there's a certain kind of possessiveness, right? Right? Those Western people, the best they can hope for is to lead a good life and be born again in India, reincarnated in India. What can you say? What's up with them? Well, everybody, everybody has a caution about people appropriating their cultural makeup, their cultural characteristics, the best parts of them, and then kind of, misusing it. I mean, look what white people did to rock and roll, to black music, right? It got appropriated. All the black people who wrote many of the hits of the 50s and early 60s never saw a dime of it. They got screwed out of their copyrights and that sort of thing. So this kind of cultural appropriation is not false. It's not like it doesn't really happen. It does. So I can understand people being possessive about that. And what can you do? If some say call him a liar, what are you supposed to do? If somebody calls me a liar, they're going to call me a liar. What can I say? I mean, a lie is strong because I'm purposely intending to deceive, to misrepresent, right? Which is, it's a heavy accusation, but also he just says whatever comes to his mind, kind of an ignorant kind of thing, right? Okay. What can you say, right? I'm sure they have their reasons for it, and they prefer the Swami because it's familiar, right? And a lot of people won't listen to me because I don't have a PhD, or I'm not a pastor of some church. It's what people are familiar with, receiving the authority from something that sounds like it should have an authority. And that will disappear when the ear of wisdom opens and you can hear the truth, the authority, regardless of how it appears to you. The costume isn't important anymore. And we should be happy that the message, which really had its birth in India, has made it, is gone all over the world. First through Buddhism, into all over Asia, and then into Europe and the US. So we should be happy about it, right? If they're not happy about it, they're not going to stop it. So you can mutter about it for a while, but ain't going to do you any good. Annette, the rock star. Hello, Annette. Hello, everyone. A few months ago, I saw myself standing in front of an abyss because I realized that I don't produce my thoughts, and that this body is not a separate entity, and the person I always thought I was doesn't exist and is just an illusion. Now it feels like I have to accept that I don't have the control about my life, future, or anything that I always thought. Is there more about that? Future, anything that I always thought I had, and jump into the abyss. What can I do? Where do I find help? Thanks a lot. Well, you don't have to jump in the abyss, dear. You already did. And what you're feeling is the energetic patterns of your nervous system, the whole momentum of your life, reacting to the profundity of that insight. Remember, all of your behaviors, associations, memories, ideas, concepts, aspirations, desires, everything about our life has been driven by this essential idea, this fundamental sense of I as being the body, being this person, even being a person on the spiritual path and seeking enlightenment, right? There's been this image of someone, right, that you thought you were. Now, when you realize that the center around which your entire life has organized isn't true, it can be a bit of an explosion. And you find yourself staring into an abyss. Well, then what am I? Okay, but relax, right? You're still here, aren't you? You're still very much aware. There's a consciousness, there's a center here. That hasn't gone anywhere. Now just sink into this for a second. This is beautiful, right? You're looking into abyss. From the mind's point of view, there's nothing there, right? But that abyss is you. That emptiness is the real you. This is what the unlimited infinite being looks like. Because it's unbounded and unlimited, the infinite cannot be seen as an object, can it? If it's an object, there's this and then there's everything else around it, right? So it's not infinite. By definition, the infinite will appear to be the abyss. Okay? Now, all you have to do is don't worry about it. You'll find controlling things when you need to, not when you don't. But little by little, that need to control will begin to fall away. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to make yourself do anything. Right? You just stay with that sense, right? Because that abyss is filled with love. It is filled with joy. It is filled with peace. It is not empty by a long shot. It's only empty in its character in that it is formless, but its nature is the infinite nature of all being. So it's love itself. You are pure love. That's what you're discovering, right? Not just a form of love, not someone who loves, but love itself, right? Now, how do you describe love itself? You can't. You can describe loving acts, loving relationships, loving conditions, loving things. I love music, I love art, I love literature, I love my work, I love my husband or my boyfriend, I love my family, I love to do things, right? There's all sorts of different manifestations of love. That's like the sense of I that you thought you were. You thought you were the manifestation of love. And this is love itself. All of those represent the formless love that can't be put into words. And when the mind looks for it, it can't find it. Hence the feeling that it's an abyss. And there's a natural kind of shock to the system, which has assumed you to be this, right? And therefore, all your thoughts and actions and everything have organized around it. And all of a sudden, it's just like if you took our solar system and plucked the sun out and put it off somewhere, what would happen? Everything would immediately just start flying off in all directions, right? It would start looking for something else to be drawn into its orbit. Your nervous system is like that. You just stay with yourself as love itself. And all of the stuff, all of the planets and everything will begin to start reorganizing themselves around your true center. And that's when this becomes more than just ideas and concepts. It becomes a lived reality. That's the sage. When the human life has completely surrendered to, has subordinated itself to, and become the expression of the genuine infinite love that you actually are. So you're not actually losing control. You are losing the mind's illusion of control, and finding the control you really have is simply not control as an act of will, but the fact that you are the sovereign center at the midst of all being. It's not control in that sense. It is simply what you are. There's nothing you need to control because it's all already subservient to you. Like the Empress, right? Empress doesn't have to control somebody. She just says, do it, and they do it because the authority is just there. Does that help? Kind of take the sting out of out of that. It can be quite, yeah, whoa, where am I? When that rug gets pulled out from under you. But thank God, it's a blessed thing that's happened to you. Oh, he did not have any formal training in the Vedic scriptures, so he's not wholesome. Yep, they can say the same thing about me. Guilty. I don't. I don't have formal training in anything. Everything I've learned has been on my own, just my own desire to know. So no, I have no letters after my name. Hell, I even shortened my name to GP. I couldn't get any smaller, right? I guess just G, right? David and Elaine, I love that conversation so much. I love both. And Sarva. Penny, hi, Penny. Jump in the abyss. Namaste. Concerning the control topic, how can one practice giving up control? Merci. You don't. When you try to give up control, it's a form of control. That's the ego. What you do is you see through the egoic sense of yourself, the false sense of I, right? And you will find that you've never been controlling anything. You never have. Now, if you're identified with the body, the egoic mind, the feeling of not having control will be very threatening. What do I do then? Because we believe that we have been surviving because we've been controlling things. Well, the only thing you've been controlling is you, restricting parts of you, right? So they can't get out, and pretending to be somebody you're not, right? If you let go of that control, it's going to feel very unstabling, but you'll find that you've never actually been in charge at all. This has all been just happening in the nervous system all by itself. The ego then believes that it was doing something, right? It takes the credit after the fact. I always use the example of the circus clown. And after the acrobats perform, and they do these, death-defying feats without a net, and the audience jumps up in a standing ovation, and the circus clowns come out and take the bow. Right? That's the ego. It takes the bow, takes the credit for what it has never done. That's also patriotism, by the way, hating people you've never met and taking credit for things you never did. So don't try, right? We're not trying to make the ego let go of stuff. It's impossible. This is the path of self-improvement and personal development and stuff. And you can make some improvements to yourself, but it won't get to the heart of the matter. Because the nature of the ego is the drive to control. So you can't train the ego not to do that. It's like trying to train a dog not to bark. Instead, you have to see that you're not your ego. You're not the person you thought you were. And in that recognition, you find the energy of the ego, which trying to control, becomes less and less. And then you naturally see that nothing needs to be controlled because life is harmonious. Life is the Tao. And you naturally harmonize with the natural flow of life, which doesn't require anyone to control it. It's already harmonious and benevolent. But you won't believe that until you start to dig deeply into, who am I really? I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my body. I'm not the sensations. I'm not the emotions. And it's in all of those that sense of ego exists. See through it. It's not the real you. Right? You are way, way more than that. And you'll find then the answer to control. Again, spiritual practice is not trying to get to certain kinds of behaviors that are more moral or ethical or conducive or prosperous or whatever. It is, who are you? Right? The desire to improve comes from a sense of, obviously there's something wrong with me to start with. Find that which doesn't need any improving, and you'll find life just takes on a natural flow of growth and evolution. It will grow, but it won't be coming from a sense of needing improving. It'll be simply perfection unfolding over time. Beautiful. Thank you. Hey, Tina Helene Lohman Peterson. So good to see you. There's Amy in Vancouver. Hello, Amy. Love your shirt. Thank you. I bought some new duds. What do you think? Yeah, we look good. I make this shirt look good. Facebook user, Namaskaram G and everyone. Is it more likely to have a spiritual experience or even to become enlightened when you're in the presence of a guru or a spiritual teacher? Thank you. Much love from Germany. Well, it's not required, but it certainly is a help. In the atmosphere of an awakened being, you naturally begin to vibrate in harmony with that field with the Buddha field. It's very natural to do that. The darshan of an awakened being is very powerful. So you can just, yes. Now the mind will go, oh, then I got to get there. I got to go to India, or I got to go, somewhere. And right at that point, the mind will then turn it into a necessity, right? But the darshan of the true guru, of which the physical, the appearance guru, the guru you meet, the hand you shake or get a hug from, is only the manifestation of the Sadguru, which is already here, which is within you, which is what leads you to the guru. It's what responds to that Buddha field, so that you recognize it, right? The response to the Buddha field is simply you recognizing your own nature. You don't have to go anywhere to get that. You don't need the personal guru to get that. You stay true to that inner voice, the inner truth, the inner searching, the inner inquiry, and it will bring to you whatever it is you need that will complete the process. The power that brought me here must bring me home, is the way Rumi put it. So, Marianne, interesting topic. Well, by this time, I'm scrolling here. I don't know which topic you're talking about. So, but thank you. There's the awakened. Yes, INFJ. Yes, there's no objective perception. The few times I've uttered that, of course, no one could agree with that. I learned more and more to not speak or phrase it well for the moment, the being I am talking to or writing to. Yes. Let that become so deep. I mean, that's why Muji Ramana, Papaji would often say, keep quiet. Spend a lot of time just seeing through that yourself. No objective experience. Nothing exists outside of my perception, because the bulk of our thinking and beliefs believe that it does. And that's very ingrained in all of our nervous systems. And to break down that barrier is what is referred to in the Heart Sutra as breaking down the walls of the mind. For the mind is the belief that what I perceive exists independently from me, and that me is itself a functioning entity within this other objective space that I am perceiving. The belief that there is an external world. It's at the heart and soul. Deepen that till that boundary completely disappears. And then you won't even see the ones that don't agree with you as anything other than your perception. In other words, there isn't anyone who doesn't agree with you. Beautiful. Robert, good to see you. My friend in Henderson. I so agree with your opening and would say that I don't use that phrase at all. It really BS, and we have to unlearn. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. I don't remember what I said at the beginning, but it may come to me later. But thank you. It goes as fast as it comes. Beautiful. Yes. All is really BS. And we have to unlearn it all. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's fictions made up. Yeah. Stories. I think how did Shakespeare put it? A tale told by an idiot, full of foam and fury, signifying nothing. That kind of sums it up. Thank you, William. Play on, hello, play on. Another great satsang awaits. Oh wow, awaits. It's been going on for an hour. Boy, how far down am I here? Mary Sykes, does the absolute need to know the I am? Need form to know the I am? No. Form is a consequence of the absolute knowing itself. It doesn't need it, right? The form needs it, right? But they end up being one. Don't think of form and awareness as two separate things. Form and emptiness are the same. That's right from the Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form, right? We have to use words to describe what in fact is a singularity and cannot be described. So I talk about form and emptiness, right? Just as a contrast, as a pointer. But this is beyond form and emptiness. They are one. There are not two. The screen just started jumping around on me. I don't know what that's about. Okay. Remy. Lester Levinson says the demonstration of one is the demonstration of many. Why is the how so difficult if the why to demonstrate comes so easily? It is not easy to demonstrate completion, whether it is one or many. Why is it so hard? Because you believe yourself to be a person trying to demonstrate something. Simple as that. Lester Levinson had transcended the belief in himself as a personal human being. He went beyond that. As a result, he ended up with all sorts of city powers that he used for a while, and manifesting stuff and doing all sorts of moving things with his mind and the like, which he eventually abandoned and outgrew. He didn't care about it anymore. His followers kind of latched onto the whole miracles that he basically did. That's kind of the foundation of it. But he went beyond it, and I invite you to do the same. The demonstration of one is the demonstration of many. You have to see that the one and the many are not two, and that one is you. Right? Put your attention there, not on what results it might get. That is a trap. It always has been. It always will be. You're looking to the results, right, as some kind of effort or some kind of reward or proof will keep you forever in the endless loop of seeking stuff outside of you. You are that one. That is the only thing you need to concern yourself with. Forget demonstration. Forget manifestation. Forget proving anything. Forget results. And instead, know yourself as you are. And the rest of this stuff will take care of itself. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, true awareness, true understanding, true love. And all the rest will be added unto you. Do not worry about the rest. Christ said that too. Look at the lilies of the field. They don't sow, they don't spin. And Solomon, one of the glorious kings of Israel, was not arrayed like one of these, right? Take no thought for your life, which you'll eat, drink, which you'll put on. Right? He was serious. He was not making stuff up. Right? See to your spiritual life, essentially. The rest will take care of itself. Kakwenda. Hi, GP and everyone here. Belief creates actual fact. Is it the collective beliefs that we have as developing countries that keeps us in scarcity in spite of the vast resources? Yes, but it's not just localized. Part of it is localized, but it's worldwide. It is the universal belief in a separate self. That's where it comes from. Transcend the belief in a separate self, you will transcend the belief in scarcity. Right? You'll transcend the belief in others. In the idea that there's not only such a thing as scarcity, there's no one who believes it. Right? That sounds like a lot, but I keep urging people to the rest of this stuff will take care of itself. Put your attention on what matters most. Who am I? How in the world can I possibly know anything, whether anything is true, if I don't know who I am? If I say, I want that, I want something, I have a desire for something, I have an interest in something, and I can describe the feeling of wanting or the desire, and I can describe in great detail the thing that I want or I'm interested in. And then I ask, okay, who are you? The one who wants it, the most important part of the whole phrase. And we go, yeah, I know what I want. Right? Who's that I? This is the whole point. We don't do that. This is what satsang is. It is, this is great. Who are you? Yeah, it's all wonderful. Who are you? Demonstrating? Wonderful. Who are you? The I that wants, the I that yearns, the I that longs, the I that seeks, right? Who are you? Who is that I? Know that. And doesn't it make sense that before I can know or trust anything I want or desire, I'm interested in or care about, how can I trust my feelings if I don't know who I am? As I was saying earlier, early on, we get traumatized. And so much of us gets sent to the basement. We can't, we don't have access to it, right? And we're literally forced by adaptation to become somebody we're not, an inauthentic version of ourselves. Well, that inauthentic version of ourselves settles in as a sense of identity with all of its desires and wants and needs and its beliefs and its assumptions, right? I need to live like this. I can't do that. This is good for me. This isn't good for me. None of that is natural to you. This is all artificial. And this is the I I'm asking you to question. So even the desires of that I, it makes the choices, your friends, your career, your relationships, your home, your children's names, the people you hang out with, the things you do are being chosen by what? By this false I you've believed yourself to be. And you're wondering why you feel like a stranger in your own life. Well, this just isn't very satisfying. Oh, I know, I want this instead. It's the same mechanism. Look at the I. Please look at the I. Oh. Oh. Jay, so it is basically the use of words, because obviously the truth is beyond words. What Rupert said is a good exercise in the way to describe the truth, but there isn't a path to awareness. It's the immediate experience. Did I understand you correctly, GP? Yes. These exercises are simply to draw your attention away from all of the distractions and focus it on the place where the direct experience has the best chance of happening. Right? Just focusing your attention there is no guarantee that, the heavens are going to part. But if you are, you're standing in the right place, looking in the right direction for when they do. And that's not really hard when you begin to see just the effect it has on us, the lessening of reactivity, the programmed responses that falls away, the deepening of our compassion and our capacity to love and our tenderness and our patience. We realize we're looking in the right direction. And it's simply a matter of abiding there until the final opening takes place. Beautiful. Remy, how sure are you that consciousness has always existed? Is this an internally generated thing that comes from reaching a certain point or accomplishment in meditation? Like, does it have a visceral answer? Because when I explore consciousness, which is myself as the formless, I step out of time. It's simple as that, right? So to say it always existed is even a question in time, right? And everything I perceive happens in consciousness. It is primary to everything. Now, if by consciousness there's a sense of me, a sense of this person, well, that had a beginning. What did you look like before your parents were born? Before you were born, what was your experience? There was no experience at all. So the entire world happened to you. I mean, there's only two ways you can look at it, folks. Either you were there and the world appeared, and when you die, it just disappears and you're still here. Or the world has been here, you got born into it, and you disappeared. The phenomena you're experiencing is the same, no matter which approach you take to answering the question of which came first. The materialist says, obviously, it was the world. I'm just this material structure. I didn't exist prior to this. I won't exist after it. That's the model, right? I look at it and I go, my direct experience is this. There's been something that has absolutely remained changeless my entire life, my perceiving of things, consciousness. Having remained changeless, unfluctuating, that means it is not in time, because time is nothing but the measurement of change. So this thing, having not been that, is not in time. Therefore, it can't have a beginning or an end, which is time bound. It pre-exists it. So I look at it and I go, what happened? Did my parents create me, or did I create them? Was I born into a world, or was it born into me? Was I born at all? These are the questions you get to ask when you jump into this level of non-dual inquiry. These are the most fundamental questions, a fundamental assumption, the way all of humanity is based on the idea that the world's here and I'm being born out of it. Even though it's in reincarnation, I'm born into it and come out of it again. The other creation, I'm born into it and then I go somewhere else, right? But there was a clear beginning to me. Right? Well, there was a clear beginning to this body, but everything I've ever experienced has been something that has been appearing to consciousness and disappearing out of consciousness. And the consciousness has remained the same. To me, it's just self-evident. just like, yeah, right? I don't need any confirmation for that. So how can I be sure? I just am. Right? So, yeah, this is what it is. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks, Remy. Facebook user, hello from Carmel Valley, California. Beautiful place. I've been there many times when I used to live out there. What belief causes actual fact? Oh, I got to that one. I don't want to sound like I'm flippant about that. The problem in developing countries. The fact of the matter is it's happening more and more in the West. They don't report it in the West because they don't want that to be known, because they want the illusion that somehow, especially in the US, that we're still prosperous and the economy is booming, when it's not. It's just more wealth is being transferred upward. There's more and more scarcity. And in fact, there would be an enormous amount of scarcity if credit hadn't been introduced back in the 70s and 80s. That's what's kept the economy going, not anything real. And scarcity is greed. There is no scarcity, right? We invent the scarcity because of greed. It's that simple. One of the three poisons, as Buddhism pointed out, and one of the 7 deadly sins, as they have in Christianity. It is greed, artificially creating scarcity in order for that ego to make itself more important than somebody else and have power, to have that kind of control. So I didn't want to sound flippant about developing countries and it's not 100% their fault. You can't, they're not thinking right. That's why. The law of attraction people will say stuff like that. It isn't that. It's much bigger than all of that. But you can get to the root for yourself by exploring where am I regarding myself as not enough? That is the origin of everything that we would have to regard as the scarcity delusion, because there isn't any. Hello, Lily. Hi, GP. There seems to be an experience here of I am energy. How far if at all, does that relate to the I thought that Ramana Maharshi refers to? Thanks. The I am energy isn't a thought, is it? The I am, as you express it to me, it becomes the words I am. But you notice that prior to those words, there's the sense I am. Ramana always brought people's attention back to that sense I am. You call the I. He said the I removes the I and yet remains the I. And so the thought I am is the sense of identity. It's the egoic mind. It's that feeling I am, which identifies with the body, identifies with the form. And the moment it identifies the form, it then takes on the characteristics of that form. But it sounds like you've gotten to the place where you're beginning to experience just the I am all by itself, right? Which is the I am prior to any identification with anything. And you notice it's just I am, full stop. I am not this or that. I'm not male or female. I'm not old or young. I'm not, Asian or Aboriginal or Black. I am not, I am not a Christian or a Buddhist, right? Just I am. And that I am is prior to everything, right? And that I am, in our lives, we identified with this or that, but that was just the result of the circumstances we're in, right? Different conditions, I would have identified with something else. So nothing I am identified is actually me. Could have been any number of things. So, there's this essential feeling of I am, sense I am. It's not even a feeling like an emotion. It's it's a different kind of feeling. And there's an awareness of that, a consciousness of that. And then the next step is to recognize that even that sense I am, which is the subtlest experience of all, there's something aware of that you can't be aware of. It's prior even to the I am, right? And that's the absolute to which Ramana pointed. But the steps that go back the way you came. You're absolutely in the right place. The I am energy. When you say energy, I sense that it's just kind of this formless presence. It hasn't taken shape. It's not I am this or that. It's pure I am. Beautiful. Stay with that. Abide there. And notice that there's something watching even that. That I am is God. It is the creator of the universe. From that I am, the entire universe has sprung. Prior to that is absolute being that cannot be put into words. And it is a place that would seem, you could say, it doesn't even know itself. It's prior to the knowledge or the sense of I am. That's the ultimate Father. The I am being the firstborn. But you are absolutely on track, my dear. Very good. Very, very good. Hello, Pat Moss. Good evening to you. Melissa K. Natural beauty, presence, pureness, and authenticity is what is attractive. Yes. Oh, boy, all the way back to talking about the women. Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. And really, spiritually mature men, that's what they find attractive. The immature, the childish, it's very superficial. That's, that's drawn, it's, the trophy bride kind of thing. Coco, GP, are you familiar with Dzogchen? I can never pronounce that name. Dzogchen. Yes, I think that's it. Dzogchen teachings. They are remarkably similar to Advaita or Zen. Yes. Tibetan Buddhist schools usually focused on Buddhist science, philosophy, asceticism, and religious practice. Yes, I am. And Dzogchen is, yes, I mean, you talked a great deal about emptiness and nothing, the nothing but mind. So yes, it's a different expression of exactly the same thing as the other forms of Zen and Advaita Vedanta. It's all about the emptiness. So yes. Roberto. Hello, Roberto. The Enlightened Masters awaken after a terrible experience. Not always. My understanding that enlightenment can't be taught, that it has to be given to you, correct? Once you are aware that you have been run by your beliefs, mind, and fears your entire life, feeling of not being enough, not being worth it, lack, not being safe, what the heck do you do with all of that? Right. Once you realize you have been run by those, notice something magical has already happened, my friend. right? And it is the gift that you say has to be given to you. It's been given. If that hadn't been given, you would just be living out your fears and beliefs and not being enough and have no awareness of it. Right? Yes, when you become aware that this has been dominating your entire life, it's pretty overwhelming. What the hell do I do with this now? Right? But recognize that you couldn't be sitting in that position asking that question if some awakening hadn't already taken place. When it doesn't take place at all, you are your beliefs. Lack isn't something you question, it's a reality. The not being worthy, you're simply compensating for it your whole life. You're not aware that it's even there, that there's this underlying unconscious sense. Right? So you've already been given the gift. Now don't romanticize it. Like the gift of enlightenment is like, oh, it's all done, right? The heavens parted, the Red Sea parts, right? It's like the Buddha experience, right? Which who knows how long it actually took, right? We know about 6 years, right? So yeah, it isn't the end of a process. It's not something you bring about, but it's something being brought about in you. It's pure grace. The very fact that you're sitting here asking me these questions in satsang is evidence that it's already happening. You are being turned in the right direction. You are being called back home. It's grace. It's love. Love so loves you that it's calling you back to you. This is a love so great. It will even make all sorts of things go wrong in your life to get your attention, to bring you back home. Right? So what the heck do you do with all of that? You be in that, just recognize the struggle we all go through. That's why I teach about inner reconciliation and all the various processes as to how to actually deal with and reconcile with and integrate this incredible thing that has happened for you. And it's already happened. You wouldn't be here if it hadn't. You wouldn't be doing the things you're doing if it hadn't. You wouldn't be aware of how completely overrun. Everybody's life is like that. And for everybody, it's a shock when you realize I have not been living my own life. I've been living out a bunch of fears, beliefs, assumptions, ideas, attitudes, and behaviors that were never mine in the first place. Oh, good God, now what the hell do I do? Don't worry. It'll take care of itself. The insight itself. The power that brought me here must bring me home. It will. It will continue to break those chains, break those cords and bonds. And the insight into who you really are, the consciousness that is aware, that's always been enlightened, will itself permeate and colonize the entire nervous system and subjugate the entire thing and turn it into a servant of the Lord, a servant of the Absolute. Thank you, Roberta. Beautiful. Let go of my ego. Feel lucky. Most people do not get that far. Then take that understanding and start pushing beliefs onto the chopping block. I'm not sure who you're referring to, but you're right. Oh, I just jumped ahead on me. Let's see. Where am I? Oh, there. Lisa. Oh, Lisa. Private face group name, GP Walsh Spiritual Teacher. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa keeps reminding me that I have to tell people about this stuff. Thank you, Lisa. You're great. Oh, you guys can all be very appreciative of Lisa. It'd be very difficult for me to be pulling all this off without her. There's Dale. Hello, how are you, Dale? Robbie, thank you for answering regarding managing pain. And yes, it was about pursuing goals. Becoming more aware that an inner energy in conflict is itself an energy, not an enemy to throw out. That is the heart and soul of inner reconciliation, which is why I created it. And it was my insight into that that really changed absolutely everything. It got me out of even struggling, to be enlightened and just kind of sink into the beauty and wonder of life. Play on. I believe I'm on the right path in life. I do too. I don't think you can actually get off of it, even if you wanted to. That's just an illusion. His ego says, I should be doing something else, right? Who said? Anyway, I believe I'm on the right path in life. But sometime on the path it gets, though, and I feel like I lose it, or at least forget about it, mostly when I interact with other beings. Got any advice on how to not lose it? Yeah, recognize that you are it. Anything you can gain, you can lose, right? An experience, an emotional state, an insight, a car, a girlfriend, anything you can acquire can be lost. What can't be lost? There's only one thing, my friend, and that's you. Right? You don't even have to hold on to your thoughts, right? This isn't about, I gotta get my thoughts right. No, it's a recognition that your thoughts are just your thoughts. They're all conditioned patterns. None of them have any truth to them. None of them have any inherent value. You catch yourself thinking, going along, believing it. You go, oh, well, it's just a thought. Maybe useful for a time, but it's just a thought, right? Boom. What isn't a thought? What isn't an emotion? What isn't a sensation? What cannot be lost? You. Now, do you need to do anything to get you? Do you need to hold on to anything to be you? Abide there. Right? We're not trying to create a particular state of mind or a particular set of conditions. Nothing like that. We are simply acknowledging that which is always here, always has been, and always will be. That you cannot lose. And that just barely even knows itself. Even the knowledge I am is something it marvels at, that you marvel at. Pure consciousness, that is who you are. I hope that helps, play on. The real craving is connection. Yes, absolutely. Always. Yes, that's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. Lots of love from France, from Marguerite. Hello, Marguerite. Man, sorry if it's bad explained, but hope you get. I got what you meant. Yeah. Phoenix, it's all about energy, not about talking. You clearly reflect that, G. Well, thank you, Phoenix. Yes. The words carry the word, right? The wire carries the electricity. It's the electricity that's the juice, right? Not the wire, right? The wire that carries these words, right? But it's not even the words. It's the energy in the words. And the energy in the words is way beyond this particular form. Right? So, oh, hi, Alessandra, just north of you in Corralitos, visiting family tomorrow. Hello, everybody. That's another Facebook user. J Deep, namaste. Namaste to you. I've been reading and listening a lot recently about the illusion of the personal I, or the ego. I tried to make a little inquiry about myself, trying to see through the illusion. But I hit a roadblock. When I, the little me, think, let's raise my hand, I indeed can raise my hand, affirming the existence of the little me who has a personalized wish and can respond to that. So my question is, when I want to raise my hand, and indeed raise my hand, who is it? Who really thought of raising the hand? If little me is false, who responded to that wish? If it's awareness, why awareness would want to respond to it at all? Because by definition, awareness is impersonal. Probably I'm making some wrong assumptions here. I want to know, what is it? Yeah, but your heart is so sincere. So don't worry about it. The assumptions are easy to expose, right? Yeah, what you're referring to is an example that I've used of in slow motion. The way the nervous system actually works is, I'm going to raise my hand. It actually does work like that. The cognition of an event happens after the event has occurred, right? So life is just happening. That is a fact. Now, this is not a spiritual thing. This is a measured thing using what do they call those things? MRIs, right? So the cognition of an action takes place after the action. It's a very short period of time, but it's clearly afterwards, right? Which is, it's not more popularly looked at or understood because it just contradicts everything we think, the whole nature of free will and volition and all that sort of thing. So there's nobody raising the hand. And it's only a thought after the fact that says, I raised the hand. That I is not you. It is just a thought. That's the nature of the cognitive mind. That's the way it works. No problem. Okay. So who responded to the wish? Nobody. The wish was invented after the fact. There was no wish. It was simply the unfolding of life. Life, the Tao, being the Tao. Everything about your body, every thought, every feeling, every bit of blood pumping, every chemical is all the functioning of life that is not an act of anyone's will. Why would awareness want to respond to it at all? Awareness doesn't respond to it. Awareness is the dimension in which the entire thing sits. Without awareness, could there be any functioning at all? No, there couldn't be. And it's clear. So look at yourself. If there was no awareness, right, there'd be no you. There'd be no experience. There'd be no world. There'd be nothing, right? Now we imagine all of this stuff exists independently of the awareness, but that's also an imagining happening within awareness. I can find no evidence of anything, any existence whatsoever outside of that awareness. Now this functioning is going on, right? And so don't mistake some cognizance for the awareness. Right? That's only something else that awareness is aware of. The whole mechanism and cognizance and all the, right? It's far bigger than what we think it is, right? Let me try to get you back to the place where the answer to these questions becomes self-evident because you know yourself as the awareness. When you ask a question, if it's awareness, as if it was something out there to be looked at, right? Notice the way the mind wants to turn awareness or consciousness into some object it can look at. Recreate the subject-object relationship. Now there's me, and then there's consciousness. All right. I'm not interested in that case, I am not interested in consciousness or awareness. I'm only interested in you. I want to know you. So if you're something other than awareness and consciousness, I want to know you. Then what are you? Take away awareness or consciousness, and what are you? So you can't do it. So the true non-duality is that awareness or consciousness is you. And so everything is happening within consciousness. Every action, every reaction, every consequent action, every thought, everything, right, is happening in front of you. And this is your actual experience. Now just abide there. Just notice that. I can't have any experience outside of awareness. Not even my awareness, which implies subtly there's a me, and that awareness then is some kind of attribute of me. Well, then what am I? If it's an attribute of me, what is it that it is an attribute of? I want to know what the truth is. I want to get to the bottom of it, right? I don't want to have to go yet another layer back, right? I want to get, this is it. This is ground zero, right? Okay, so there's something of which awareness is an attribute. What is that? That's me then. That's the real me. Right? Getting rid of everything that isn't me. And what's left? And I realized that, consciousness, awareness is me. I'm not a thing that has it. I am that. And all things are simply coming and going in my presence. And I am that infinite being, the one. I hope that covers it for you, J Deep. Jay, thank you for sharing that, G. There are times I couldn't allow my oldest son to do certain things, and I couldn't understand what he was trying to communicate. And I'm trying to do my best with him. Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. That's all you can do. And then let it go. Ultimately, you give them over to the power that brought them here, right? And fulfilling their own destiny. Faith. Hello, my sheik. Hello, my dear. Last week I have been practicing remembering that God is love itself, and I could tape on that love a few times. I'm keeping the work. I love you. Oh, I love you too. Beautiful. So beautiful. Yes, you are love itself. God is love itself. And everything you know as your life is God or love made manifest. Trust that. There are so many comments. I'm like a proud father. You're not so underground anymore. Gee, I'm mindful zero. Yeah, not quite as much. Yeah. What do you think about Course of Miracles teaching mixed with non-duality teaching? I love you from my spiritual heart, Babaji, from Faith. I know a lot of people who really swear by the Course of Miracles. I've never read the entire thing. By the time I became exposed to it, I'd already been exposed to all of this. So what I read, I found it to be too much in the head. It was more of the metaphysical tradition. And, I came from that world of the the New Thought churches, right? And I learned that stuff and felt eventually I just kind of let it go because it was too much in the head. It didn't have enough in the heart. And it had kind of convoluted the point and had taken in a lot of the ethics of the Victorian period. It had taken a lot in the cultural biases. It was not aware of anything other than Christianity and the Bible. It didn't take in a lot of other sources. So it focused on that, had a lot of focus on a historical Jesus. I eventually saw that it was trying to get out of the biblical narrative, the mythological import, which I did, but then I didn't need it anymore. I didn't need any of that anymore, right? And then I discovered, Zen and Nisargadatta, and people were just out and out saying it. And the clarity of the Vedantic tradition, which did not put the whole thing in parables and myths. It just stated it. Hinduism is filled of great parables and myths and stories, just like all religious traditions. But there's this other thread in there. It's just like, wham, right in your face. This is it, which is picked up by Zen and the emptiness traditions and that sort of thing. So, so that's why it has a lot of uses. A lot of people love it, really swear by it. I know it's had a wonderful impact on a lot of people, but I think it's also something you'll simply outgrow. As all teaching gets outgrown, including mine. Thank God. Who wants to be immortalized? Bo, how you doing, Bo? Dear G, warm greetings from BC. You're the great gift to all of us. No question is too trivial or too overly sophisticated for you. Wow. You answer them all with patience and real respect to the questioner. Thanks for being there for us and sharing the wisdom from the place of the infinite truth. Very touched. Thank you, Bo. I don't think of myself in those terms. If the heart asks a question, what could I do but want to answer it at the place that they are? 50 years ago, I had that experience of seeing the original innocence of every individual, and it's just never left me. It's gotten obscured. It's been struggling at sometimes, and when I see, the current state of politics and just the power-hungry greed that is going on, it can be really obscured, that original innocence. But I know that on that level of the power hunger and the greed is all the conditioning. And they are blind as a bat. And as a result, the gains will be lost and the crash will be big. So my heart goes out even to that. So thank you for acknowledging that. It means a lot to me. Play on. I guess. Oops. Yeah, I'm getting a little short of time here. I already know the answer to the question, but sometimes you need to hear it. Yes, sometimes you do. You do know the answer. Even when I say it, you still know it. The only reason you recognize it is because you already know it. I got a smile from Lego My Ego. Yes, scarcity equals greed. They go together. Yes, lack and greed are two sides of the same coin, right? They both arise from the same place. Namaste from there's God. God has joined us. GP, what are your thoughts on cannabis assessing spirituality? All the plant medicines can be an assist, but they're medicines. Don't forget it. And medicines are to be taken until you're well, right? Right now, there's a lot of good that the plant medicines can do for a lot of people. Unfortunately, the ones who need it most aren't taking it. And so, it's kind of, I call it an anti-inflammatory for an overly inflamed ego. So it can help, but it's a medicine. And it will not take you all the way. There's a point at which that is let aside. And the only thing that will take you all the way, as far as I know, and I've looked a lot of places, is non-dual self-inquiry, which opens the heart. Tina, hello from Denmark. If we come from the future, the space is always be here. Amen. People in my work are acting like assholes. Make me ask that question. Yep, indeed. That they do. Let's see. Thank you, G. Your explanation indeed helped. I know it might reappear, but as you said, I'll now take cognition that even doubt is another thought. Yes, it is. Love and appreciation from Dave and Elaine. Great to see you guys. We merely take cognitions of others' actions after it's been acted. That's a key insight for me, which I'll try to meditate and contemplate. You're very welcome. All right, let's see what the time is up there. Okay, very good. Vernon, hello, Vernon. Hello, JD. Thank you again. You're welcome. Fiona James, happy to be here. I don't have time to answer another question. I actually have another appointment right after this, and I've got a few moments here. So good, GP, about the cannabis and psychedelic plant medicine. Thank you for another beautiful satsang. Thank you. Sorry I didn't get to it, Fernanda. Tapping helps me sit with it. Tapping is wonderful. I highly recommend it. Breathe. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. I wouldn't need to be here without you. I couldn't do it without you. Thanks, everybody. Namaste.